another, I guess, constant of late anyway, source of chaos would be the biopharmaceutical market itself. Like if you look around, I mean, monoclonal antibodies remain sort of a bulwark of the biologics development space. So there's a clamor for attention among monoclonal antibody developers. You look outside MABs and you see just a whole new world of multiple new worlds of modalities popping up all the time. Perhaps some of those modalities are chasing the same, kidney transplant indication that you're chasing. So you've maybe got competition coming at you from angles that are well outside the, antibody space. And to the point you made earlier, I mean, innovation is happening at breakneck speed. It's always, you always question yourself. You want to check yourself when you say innovation is happening at a pace we've never seen before. But I think you can say that right now. I think it's true. New biologic discoveries. So the question is when things are good, money's good, your prospects for partnership are good. Everything's good, but you look around, you go, holy cow, it's a chaotic market. There's a lot going on in a lot of different modalities. How do you go about managing that and being aware, like maintaining awareness? Because it's got to be a combination of knowing your competition, your co-opetition, your peers, but also operating at least in some perspectives with blinders on so that you maintain focus. What's the secret sauce there?
Well, I don't know if I know the secret sauce, but there definitely trends, I think, where, if you go maybe back 20 years, indeed, things were maybe a bit more clear, right? You have your small molecules, you have your antibodies, and then there are maybe, some early gene therapies in development. That was kind of it. And then later on, it is indeed what you say, it exploded from a modality perspective. Mm-hmm. Not all sorts of different modalities, but even within the antibody space, right? So if you think about all the different modalities that we now have available there, it's tremendously interesting. And hopefully AI will provide us with some insights there to make early on sensible decisions. So that's another layer on top of that we currently have to deal with. I think one thing that I can offer here is that I don't think we should solve a problem adding new technologies to solve it just because of a new technology. So sometimes you see that you have already a new target that you're addressing, mm-hmm. and then if it requires 3 new technologies to be added into one solution to be able to be successful, that is typically a recipe for not being successful. So keep it simple is probably a right advice there. And if you take that to heart, you might be able to challenge yourself and restrict, say, solving a novel problem of a novel technology with a novel technology, but then maybe take a step back and say, okay, well, is this fundamentally the right way to do it, or should we approach it in a different way? So I think that's there. Something else, very basic, more from a management philosophy, also just introduced at Memo Therapeutics, is a stage gate model. So, again, begin with the end in mind, but then we chop up the activities in stage gates. So we know we don't know everything now, but we know what we want to have at the end of this first stage, so that we can say, okay, we open the gate for the next stage to be developed and money to be attributed to such a profile. So it's a conscious then process that you take together in the team to make these decisions and advance your R&D project forward.
You told me the last time we spoke, if I remember correctly, you told me about a book that you read years ago that influenced your philosophies around managing chaos. What was that book? Remind me, what was that book?
It's On the Edge of Chaos. It's a classic, I guess, by now. Indeed, it's probably 30 years or 35 years old.
Was that was that Surfing on the Edge of Chaos, or was that a different book?
I think that's a different book. There are many books, of course. Yeah, in this, it was called On the Edge of Chaos. Maybe I can actually get it still out of my library here. It'll take a little bit of time to get it. I was fascinated by complexity theory, which basically, describes how order appears from chaos. Or in business science, it's called system thinking. So just to give you an example, if you think of a flock of birds, right, and the behavior that it provides, it's very difficult, of course, to be deterministic about it, because you can't say whether the flock of birds will go left or right at a certain moment in time. But what you can do is, with 3 simple rules, describe the behavior that you're seeing, the patterns that are emerging. And these 3 simple rules are the following. Maintain a minimum distance from other birds to avoid collision. So you have to not come too close. Fly towards the average positions of your neighbors. So you don't want to go outside of the flock. And then fly in the average directions of your neighbor, which is also nice. If you put these 3 simple rules into a computer model, with dots, for example, you see a pattern of flocking behavior of birds. So I think in the end, this is also applicable in real life. We cannot control everything. We cannot determine the outcome of everything that we do, or even other people are doing. But if you understand the overall system, I think you can find some general rules that you can apply to at least feel at a higher level in control of the patterns that you would like to see emerging, either in your organization or in your project. So it's being comfortable with uncertainty, and at the same time trying to control that uncertainty by at least knowing the risks that you can know and then address them, and be comfortable with the risks that you don't know. The unknowns are just unknown. You have to adapt at the moment that they arise.
Yeah.
So being open to that, and then recognize it, and then act. So those are things that, I kind of liked, so that there's no, you have some level of control, but you don't have a lot of control, which allows personally me to deal with all the uncertainties that we have in biotech. So I want to do everything right that I can. And I'm okay with, chaotic behavior or events that I cannot control, like COVID-19. And then you adapt.
It's I mean, I need to read that book. I'm disappointed in myself that I haven't. As you were describing the bird example, I'm envisioning. I live on a small farm in Pennsylvania, and we have massive flocks of starlings, European starlings. Here they were introduced to the States, 150 years ago, and they've just proliferated here. And their murmurations, I'm envisioning that as you're talking. And you sit there and you marvel at it. How are they not colliding? They're playing by those rules that you just described, and they don't collide. They don't. They don't. If they bump each other, they correct very quickly. And continue their murmuration.
Isn't that nice? Huh?
But how much of that is learned versus inherent? Like, did Eric Van Den Berg bring that personality? Like the personality trait to be willing to embrace the imperfection that comes with chaos theory, and deal with it despite the consequences, because sometimes the stakes are pretty high. Did you come with that, or did you learn it?
No, I had to learn it. Yeah, I think earlier in life I probably wanted to control everything, and I'm sure that if we speak with my staff, they will still say that I exert quite a bit of oversight, because I do like details, but I also like the higher level. So I think that's basically where it starts. But it was learned that it's okay not to control all little risks. We just need to be aware of the big risks, and those are the ones that you have to control. You have to put policies in place, or more importantly, preemptive work. Well, what if that happens? Well, then, it's good if we would have done this investment at this moment in time. So I think in the end, it's a couple of things that I learned along the way. And that is, of course, we need to endure constant change. There's lots of uncertainty, and you need to be comfortable with that, certainly in a biotech. You have to take decisions in the absence of full data, identifying these risks and addressing them early on. Yeah. And you can have an overall direction, like a vision, a strategy, development plan, a culture, company culture. So those things I think you can put in place. And with that, you're kind of managing these uncertainties and these chaotic behaviors towards a certain direction that you like. And then still, things will pop up and you have to deal with. But at least the stream is going in the right direction. And then within that stream, you will still need to navigate where your boat actually is going towards. So I think those are, higher level and so strategical and tactical things that you can separate them and then address them.
Yeah. All right. To wrap things up here, Eric, I'll give you another opportunity to share what's going on at Memo Therapeutics, but you have to do it in the context of the theme here of chaos. So what's the you got to be safe with you got to play this one safe. You don't want to make your public relations people upset. But what's the chaos that Eric Van Den Bergh is engaged in today at Memo, and how are you navigating it?
Well, very interesting question. I guess the chaos that I'm introducing, at least at the beginning, is to have an impact on the culture of the company, where it's perfectly understandable that in an early phase of development, the company is even more cash restricted, which means that going fast is maybe the first priority, and now the chaos of doing it, right, in the way to shorten the further development steps that we need to take. So still the overall objective is the same, which is get a drug to market in the fastest way possible. But the approach is different. Instead of moving as quickly as possible to the next milestone, it is making sure that when we reach the next milestone, we have everything we need, at least that we can now think of. That puts us in the best position to make sure that we have the fastest plan forward thereafter to the market. Which is, it sounds like a trivial change, but I think it's quite a profound change. At least that's the feedback that I got. And which, the team, it's a very agile team. It's very happy to work with, because in the end, we want to be successful, right? And we want to address this unmet medical need. And that's basically, I guess, the chaos that we're currently addressing. Lots is under control. And that's good. I like to keep it that way. And focusing on quality of the deliverables is a key aspect, I think, in that whole story. Yeah.
Very good. Well, it's been a pleasure to talk with you, Eric. I appreciate you coming on the show. A lot of great insight there, and your track record speaks for itself. But it's always good to have a conversation like what's behind this guy that's got this track record. What's between his ears that keeps him on track. And I think you were very transparent and insightful with what you shared with us today. So I appreciate it.
Well, it was my pleasure, Matt, to participate. Thanks for all your questions. And I'm sure we would have another hour to talk about more aspects. But let's
at least.
Poor listeners, indeed. Let's give them a break.
No, they love it. They love it. They tell me they love it all the time. And we could spend another hour. I'll be in touch to schedule that next hour. We'll have you back on the show the next opportunity you can give us.
Oh, well, thanks, Matt. Looking forward to that then.